Welcome back to MVM. Today on the table, I have the next game in the detective line from Portal Games called Everybody Lies. And yes, this features the Caped Crusader himself, Batman. Now, for those who are completely unaware of the detective series, they've covered a lot of different genres, some IPs. You'll see the Dune House Secrets game here right above that. All of these games kind of feature similar mechanics. The idea of investigating some kind of mystery over a series of different cases. This game features both physical elements and a virtual element in that you're going to be able to log on to the Gotham City police database and not only enter evidence that you discover over the course of the game, but also gain access to case files, maybe even videos, audio clips, and virtual information that you can't just have in a normal game. The app or the website is actually going to also kind of rate your success, which is something that's very unique about these detective games. You don't necessarily know when you've reached the end of a case, but you will be able to, at a certain point, decide that you think you have enough information to solve the case, bring in the information, answer a questionnaire of evidence, and try to prove what you think happened is actually what happened. If you're successful, you'll get a thumbs up. If not, you might get a poor rating and you might need to go back and replay that case, but you don't have to. You can keep moving forward. So that's kind of a very basic overview of what detective is. It's a mystery game, and what better mystery to have than a mystery featuring Gotham City and Batman. Now, to get this right out of the way, you don't actually play as Batman in this game. There are 4 characters you can choose from: Harvey Bullock, the cop; Catwoman, the burglar; Warren Spacey, who is a writer; and then Vicky Vale, who is a journalist. All of these characters have appeared throughout Batman comics history. And yes, of course, Batman will be making an appearance, although he is not going to be a playable character. So everything I have set up in front of me here is what you're going to start with case 0, or what they call the prologue case. This case exists to kind of get you into the game. So nothing that you see in this video is going to be a spoiler at all for any of the actual cases. But you'll see here, there are 3 main cases off to the side next to this Gotham City map. And then I have the prologue deck already set up. Now, a few things are going to be different. For one thing, you have this board of locations here, and these locations are actually tiles that can flip and be changed. As you investigate these areas, you may have to later pay a cost to come back and investigate them again. And you'll notice 4 areas that start populated with another 4 areas that can be eventually unlocked as you play through the game. Now, the way that you're going to interact with these locations is based on the cards in this case deck, in this case, this prologue deck. But you're going to see some decks next to these which are interesting. The scene deck, which is going to actually have comic panels that you can look at that kind of sets the scene that you're talking about currently. And this personal goal deck, which is actually going to give storylines to the 4 characters that are going to interweave in with the tale of what's happening in Gotham City. Now, of course, you have a big map here of Gotham as well that's going to show you where all the locations are. This can be very useful when you're trying to process information, when you're trying to figure out how somebody maybe moved from location to location, or where certain crimes were maybe committed on this map. All of these locations might show up within the scene deck or the case decks, but it's all important. Now, you're also going to have some tokens over here that represent currencies that can be spent, character tokens, and then these little evidence tokens. You're going to start the game with 1. You can earn more as you play. These can be turned in. Each character has a kind of a special ability that they can either turn it in for one of these tokens, or they can spend it to get their particular character tile. And these are useful because these character tiles are going to allow them to interact with that personal goal deck. But before I get too far into this, let me just kind of bring it back and talk about what you're actually doing from turn to turn. This is a free-flowing kind of game. There isn't necessarily a turn structure, but what you have is a certain amount of time. And you'll see that time track here that goes from this blue to the green, the yellow, the red. Once you hit the green, that is when you can decide to solve the case. The game thinks you've taken enough time, enough hours spent investigating that you might have a case now. If you go all the way to the red, to the 16, then you have to present your case, and you're going to get more points for doing it in the green than you would in the yellow or the red. And different cases are going to give you a different amounts of time by determining where this investigation token is going to start. Now, each case is going to have an envelope that's going to kind of kick off the adventure for you. The prologue is just this one little sheet, almost like poster, that's going to kind of break down how to start playing the game. And you're going to see a few leads to start with, a few setup instructions, and it's basically going to tell you what can you investigate. I can go downtown, the headquarters. I could go to the Gotham City Gazette. These are the 3 locations that are on the board. I can investigate those, and it tells me which card to draw. And this is kind of how that free-form style of the game works, because it's going to tell me if I want to investigate a certain area, then I need to look in the prologue deck and find a specific card. For example, maybe I need to find card 001. This is going to give me a variety of story, narrative, and it's going to tell me whether to maybe draw a second card, maybe go to a scene card, maybe go to the personal deck card, maybe going to give me some options of further things to do. So you'll see even just going to 001 now opens up all this information. I could go to 9, 11, 12. I could dig deeper into this deck. But note, every time you decide to do that on your turn, you're spending one of those time units, one of those hours. You're ticking this investigation token a little closer to the end. So you're never going to be able to investigate everything. What you need to do is read through the text of the cards, look at all the information that you've gathered so far, look at the scenes, and it's going to tell you when to draw these, and it's going to place these scenes out, and you'll notice they place out like a comic book. Again, these are all from the prologue here, so no real spoilers, but they're going to present a story for you as you start to put them together. So based on what you're knowing here, what you're seeing here, what you might be learning from your personal character goals decks, and what information you were just given about the case in general, it's going to you're going to use all of that to narrow down what to do next. And that might sound difficult, but this game wants you to think like a detective. It wants you to look at all the suspects, look at all the evidence, make smart decisions. If you see a card and you don't want to do any of the options, you can just kind of set that card in front of you and you know you have that option. You can go back to the booklet, maybe go to a different lead that you hadn't already explored. Maybe I want to go find card 9 and see what happens there. And by the time you're done, by the time you run out of time, you're going to have quite the tableau of information. They actually suggest keeping a notebook and actually taking notes like an actual investigator. If you've never played a detective game, I can tell you, I've played through the basic detective, some of the expansions, and through House Secrets. There is a lot of information to process, and it's such an immersive experience, feeling that, like flipping through your own notes, like, wait a minute, this witness said what? And now I'm finding some evidence maybe that contradicts that. It's a really cool experience to feel that collaboratively with a group. Now, you can play this solo. You can play up to 4 players with each player playing one character, but only the characters that are in play are going to actually experience their personal goals. So if you play with 4 players, you might be going through this personal goal deck a lot. If you're just playing with 1 or 2 players, each one of you is going to choose a character, and that's the character that's going to be focused on the personal goal deck. The characters that are not being chosen as playable characters are actually going to flip over to their informant side, which is going to give you some other kind of ability as well. So they're still technically in the game. You're just using them as informants instead of your player characters. Now, as you're doing these actions, as you're looking over your evidence, studying the map, following these leads, reading these cards, you are, like I said, ticking through this clock here along the outside edge. And you'll see a few spaces marked recap. These are kind of your breathing moments. When you hit a recap space, it's encouraging you to stop, look at all the evidence you've got, look at all the notes, look at all the leads that you've uncovered, start talking with the other players at the table, see if you figured out the case, if you have a chance to solve it. If you do, you can go into the Gotham website, the Gotham PD website, and review all of the evidence that you've logged so far, review all of the text, the data, the videos, the voice clips, everything that's in there, review it all, and try to solve it if you can. If you can't, well, then you can go on to that yellow, you can go on to that red, you can follow some extra leads, but this game is unique. I'll say that. You can get down a rabbit hole. You can spend all 16 time units following this one lead that you think is something and ignoring all this other evidence because you think, oh, this has got to be it. And then you get to the end and you realize, well, wait a minute, I was wrong the whole time. In which case, you can actually replay a case. The app will tell you how well you did and allow you to go kind of back and play it again. It's a very cool experience. Detective has been a very popular game, and I think a lot of people have been kind of talking and maybe waiting and hoping that we'd see kind of a Batman version of one of these investigation games. So this came at a perfect time. People who love Batman or even who don't, maybe this is really your first experience with the Batman lore. It's a perfect fit for an investigation game like the detective system. It works so well with the dark, seedy Gotham City. And yes, it's very cool seeing all these DC characters and villains show up. There's a lot of names dropped, a lot of Easter eggs to other DC characters, and yes, appearances from characters like Batman himself really make this game very cool and just a lot of fun. Just like almost like a one-of-a-kind experience. So if you're a Batman fan at all, if you're a detective fan, I very much recommend this. If you're a fan of games like Exit or Unlock and you haven't jumped into something a little meatier like Detective, I think this is a great opportunity to do so because the source material kind of holds your hand a little bit and brings you in. There's a lot of concepts you're already going to know about Batman and Gotham City before you start playing this game. So that is Everybody Lies. You can find more information about the game by following the links below. But as always, if you have any comments or questions, please ask. I'll do my best to answer them. Obviously, if you couldn't tell, I think that this game is pretty cool in the way that it merges these things that I'd love to talk more with you about that or just any concerns you might have. But again, as always, thank you so much for watching this video. Thank you for liking, subscribing, being part of our MVM Discord community. We really appreciate having all of you. But until I see you again, just keep having fun at the table.
Congratulations, you got to the end of one of our videos. Now, if you want more practice, just click on the video over here. It's another video. You might not have seen it yet, so click on it. If you don't want to do that, at least click on the subscription button below. That always helps us. And if you want notifications, please ring that bell.